Hey, everybody. Welcome to the witching hour. Yes, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and we've got magic, magic everywhere. Today we've got moon magic. I'm proud to introduce, and we get to know her together. She is a lunar scholar, she is a witch, she is a storyteller, and her work literally bridges spirituality, psychology, magic, and earth-based wisdom. My name written all over her. Welcome. Thank you, Jesamyn Angelica. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, Patty, thank you so much. I am super excited to be here with you today.
I am so thrilled. I just got it in the mail. You have a brand new book, and I hear it's your first moon. And I am a moon girl. I'm very elemental, but the moon is my baby. So tell us about this.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a very big book, and it was not the intention that it be such a big book, but when I dove in, there was just so much I wanted to share with everyone. And this really is a compendium of my own practices that have been building for decades now. So I've always been in love with the moon, but I think I've identified as a lunar witch and a lunar priestess for maybe 25, 30 years. So these are the things that I do every day and the magic that I like to work with the moon. And there's a little something for everyone there. And you can make it your own too, because the moon is for everyone. The moon is for everyone, and we all have our own relationship with her. So I really want to facilitate that with this book.
I love it. And you really do. And this is not just because there's moon, it's not just a moon phases book like that's out there. You really, in what I've looked so far, you explain, go into mythology, science, ritual, healing, cycles of life, and how really the moon shapes human consciousness. And if we need anything right now, it's a human consciousness.
Yes.
Um, so what do you think? Again, I'm probably number 2 moon girl behind you because we are so affected by it and people do not notice. So
Yes.
what do you think? We're at the very end of the year. We're at the end of 2025, going into 2026. How do you think the moon itself could help us lead into this new year with a little bit more human consciousness and joy and happiness and connection?
Yeah, I mean, we really are living through some wild times, and as horrible as they are, I think that they're really necessary. They're really necessary. And the moon, as we see her, she's always whole, but we see her appearing differently at all times based on her position and our position. So as we move towards the end of the year, we can consider that we are in the waning phase. We're in the time of dissolution. This is the time to release and let go and to purify ourselves of those things that we don't want to carry forward with us anymore in our own practices and also in the world, especially in this country. I feel like we really are moving into that dark moon kind of energy where everything's breaking apart and everything that was hidden is really coming into view now so that we can deal with it instead of just building on top of that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
so what happened for how did you find your magical path, your elemental, your witchcraft, your moon witch path? Was it the love of the moon that led you into the craft or the craft that led you into the moon?
I mean, this is like the wildest thing because the more I think about it, the more I can look back upon my life and see all of the different streams that brought me to where I am. But one of the stories I tell in the book is one that my mom always talks about that when I was really little, like really little, a year old to 3 years old, that every time I saw the moon, I would yell and point and wave my arms and cry. And that she and my grandfather would like hold me up to like get me closer to the moon. So I feel like I've always had this kind of vibe with her. I'm also a Cancerian sun, so I'm very much ruled by her cycling. And I've always been that person that's like, look at the moon, look at the moon. Oh, where's the moon? So she has always called me, but my love of ceremony, I think, comes from being raised like many of us as Roman Catholics. So big time ceremonialist, those Roman Catholics are, and also being taught by nuns who had a particular devotion to Mary. So I feel like I was exposed to what I now look at as goddess culture from a really young age. So that all kind of brought me into my early teen years. when I found the book, The Power of the Witch by Laurie Cabot, and that just sparked everything. I'm like, "Oh, there's a name for all of these things that I'm doing and feeling," and so I have a great affinity for, her work and great gratitude for that book because this is pre-internet, this is pre-internet rural New England. Finding
Yeah.
this book in my home, no idea how it got there, which is the wildest thing in the world. And those that I could ask are now ancestors, so I can't ask if they were the ones that put it there.
Isn't that beautiful? I love how when you live a magical life, magical things happen. That's the coincidences that aren't coincidences, and it's it's just amazing to not live a magical life like that would just be so boring to me.
I know, I don't know how people do it, like, I really don't because it informs every aspect of who I am and every aspect of what I do, and I think that connection with something that's greater really can keep you going when the world looks so difficult.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and again, but better than that, we need the sun energy and all that stuff, but the moon just softens it and
Right?
brings
Right?
So also what I'm noticing again and just going through your book, you really do weave science with magic, with mythology and psychology. Was that hard for you to balance, or do you work that way in your practice or in your brain? I love
Really
that you do that.
think that my brain it's yeah, it's my brain. Um, my partner jokes that I have, like, the biggest brain that he's ever seen. So, like, I have, like, endless, like, lists of everything that I wanna remember and do and weave in, and I really did try to make this book smaller because this book was originally, pitched as a book called Tune into the Moon, and when I presented my draft to my editor, she's like, this is really, really large. Let me get back to you." So she took it into the visioning meeting at Llewellyn and they came back and they're like, "How would you feel about expanding some parts of this and making this Llewellyn's complete Book of the Moon?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I would like that very much because then I didn't feel as inhibited about what I shared and I was allowed to put all the green witchery into it and the potion making, which also has a big part of my heart. Um, the path of medicinal and magical herbalism was another one of my entry points into spirituality and into witchcraft and into ceremony. So it feels really yummy to be able to share all of my recipes with you.
Oh, I love it. So what is something before anybody gets a book, and we certainly want to get the book. Do you have a regular practice? Because I like ritual too. I like that again can take us into the new year, take us out. I like a daily something working with the moon or the lunar energy that you
Yes.
could share.
Yes, I mean, I have a very robust daily practice. I'm blessed to work at home, so it's kind of interwoven into all parts of my day. But my lunar practice is the first thing I do every morning, and that is offering water to the moon. So I have a altar to the moon and this sweet little crystal clear vessel, and I offer her water and I check in with what phase she's in, what sign she's in. I notice how that's feeling in my body. I notice if I want more of that energy, I'll breathe in more of that energy. If I need less of it, I'll breathe some out, ground some into the earth, and I leave that water there on the altar overnight. And in the morning, I will offer it to a house plant or I'll offer it outside, or perhaps I'll anoint some statuary or anoint myself or anoint some other things. But just kind of noticing where that water should go before I refill it. And I refill it from my tap because all water is sacred and all water is one water. And that water then collects the vibrations of the moon over the day and overnight, and then the practice begins again in the morning. So that is my main grounding lunar practice every day.
Oh, that's beautiful, and then you've added the flow, the water to the whole moon. I think that is beautiful. I try to, like, at least check where we're at, if we're waxing to add or waning to leave, and I'm very simplified in that, but I kinda like adding the flow of the water into it because I do a lot with water as well. That is good.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of research, what I'm sure, so once they turned it into a book about the moon to everything in the world about the moon. And you did kind of notice that it kind of goes across all cultures and eras. Was
Yes.
that interesting or surprising, or did you find anything that surprised you about other cultures, other times, and how they dealt with the moon?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really just vibe with the fact that every single human that's ever been alive on this planet was under the same moon. So our ancestors looked up at the same moon that we're looking up to. And I love how small that makes me feel because in understanding my own smallness, I can feel more at home in this time that we're living in now, these troubling times. Like, oh, people have lived through so much over so long that just to look at the moon and be like, okay, I can breathe with her. I also love, I'm a goddess woman. So this book is centered on goddess magic. But in many cultures, the moon is masculine or non-binary. But I focus just on the goddesses here because that's my wheelhouse. That's my magic. My community is called Sisterhood of the Moon, so we do goddess only studies. But I love that pretty much every culture that I interacted with in writing this book has a deity that is the moon or a deity that is associated with the moon in some way.
So do you work with like goddesses of all cultures, or do you have one main moon goddess, or you just work with all the
All that and more. I do like to look at goddess as the one and then the different aspects of her. So there are some faces that I work with primarily, but in our community we have women with ancestry from all over the world. So we do multicultural goddesses. So we'll invoke different goddesses depending on the season and the time of year and who's going to be at that ritual, if it's their heritage or not. For myself, my first lunar goddess was Hecate, so I still love her very much. She's one of my main goddesses. And our community, our matron goddess is Bridget. And Bridget is associated with the moon, which I think might be surprising to a lot of people, but she is also a moon goddess, which is really cool. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cool. Yes. So as we look at phases and we do different things, how much of your work, whether your ritual or your practice or your day to day, is do you do by the phases of the moon?
I think pretty much all of it. But like you too, like sometimes it's just, is she waxing or waning?
Yeah.
you know? And then my spell work or even my mundane work, I really hate that word, but there it is based on is her energy rising or is her energy falling? And then trying to fit in what I'm doing to flow with that cycle so I can power what I'm doing instead of working against what's already happening in the greater cosmos.
Okay, that's beautiful because we're made out of water, and
Yes,
that's what I said.
we
We're all
are.
water. Is
Yes. I know when people are like, the moon doesn't affect me. I'm like, well, she controls all of the tides upon the planet, and your body is mostly water. So, yes, she does
she
affect you.
does,
She
and
affects
and
all of
and
us.
all of us and everybody that muggles or mundane, they understand. Ooh, the crazy full moon. So why not tap into all those moon phases? It's not just
Exactly.
crazy full moon. You can work those energies.
Exactly. And that's why I keep saying the moon is for everyone. It doesn't matter what spiritual tradition you come from, the moon is for everyone. It doesn't have to just be something that is based in witchcraft.
I know. I agree. Do you have a favorite cycle of the moon that you like is who you are? Like, do you thrive in the waxing or the waning or the dark moon, the full moon?
Well, the wild part of it is that I was born under the waning half moon. So I think like my body resonates the most with that phase. But I'm also someone that really loves the dark of the moon. But I also love the full moon. I mean, there's no phase I don't love. And it really depends on, kind of how I'm feeling during that cycle. But there's something really special about the dark of the moon. There's that restfulness, that stillness. I think we all need more restfulness and stillness, and I'm kind of a move, 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 move kind of person. So that phase of the moon reminds me, hey, it's okay to sit back and to take a break and kind of relax into some stillness and silence and see what's going on inside.
I love that. And a lot of people do misunderstand the dark moon. So it's like where so what is the dark moon truly?
Well, that depends on who you are and what your cosmology is. But for me and for my tradition, the dark moon are the 3 days are at the end of the waning cycle before the moon is astrologically new. Now, some people call the astrological new moon when the moon is at 0 degrees illumination, the dark moon. And it kind of is. But then as soon as it's 0.1%, she's already growing again. That's the new moon. So it's always for me the very end of the lunation, those 3 days. And I like that it's 3 days. So that gives me some time. Okay, I can't, do my dark moon practice or stillness here, but I can kind of schedule it in on one of these 3 days.
That's beautiful. So how much do you incorporate your shadow work into these phases, your release, your working with ancestors and stuff?
A lot. I would say a lot. There's a whole chapter on the shadow side of each phase and each astrological sign of the moon in the book. And that was one of the chapters and I wasn't expecting that I wanted to write, but it just came forth. So it's there. I think it is very, very important that we work with not only love and light, but that we also work with darkness and depth. And this is where we come from. We gestate in a place of darkness. The seeds in the earth are gestating in darkness, and our culture has this strange thing about, white and black and dark and light. And there's a great fear of the night and the dark and things that are black, rich. And um, I think the moon can really help us to understand that all of these things are needed. This is what makes the whole. We wouldn't even exist without darkness.
No, no,
Yeah,
we need it
nothing would exist without the darkness. The darkness is just as holy as the light.
completely. I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. Oh, I can't
Mhm.
wait to get. Okay, so we know we both are practicing witches. The moon is deeply tied to witchcraft. How do you think the moon's role in witchcraft today, modern witchcraft, all the new baby witches that are popping up everywhere, and the trend, which is I think is lovely, deceptive guide. I mean,
And I mean, I think that the moon is an entry point for many witches. I mean, it was for me. I think it was for so many people. We look at the moon, you hear so much about moon witches. I mean, I know we have a lot of sun witches too. There's, a bunch of sun witches in my community as well, but lunar witchcraft and lunar witches does seem to be kind of an entry point for people. And there's just something so enthralling and fascinating about the moon. I think we all feel that way when we look up at her, and she just inspires us to magic. She
yeah,
really does. Yeah.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So also it ties into this emotional, the soft, the water of everything that we're made out of.
Mhm.
Um, So, yeah, what do you think? What are some of the things that the moon can teach us? Again, I've got a lot of new folks here. The moon can teach us about emotions, our intuitions, and embodiment itself.
Yes, about slowing down,
Yeah.
about things happening in their proper timing because you can't change how fast the moon cycles through her phases. So, learning about stillness, slowness, patience, which I think is really important, especially for new witches, because as new witches, we usually just want to gobble everything down and learn it all and be through that initiatory portal. But it takes time, and sitting with the moon in her phases through every lunation and learning that, every moment is sacred and there is no rush on this path. And that the path of witchcraft is a lifelong practice. It's not something you do and you're done with and you have your certificate and you hang it on the
Uh-huh.
wall. It's who you are. It becomes who you are. And I think the moon can really remind us of that,
I think that's
and that
beautiful.
even when she's hidden, even when she's dark and we can't see her, that she's still whole, and we're still whole too at all times.
And she's there. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I also like that in your book, what I've again seen so far, you really discuss healing with lunar cycles. So, again, and give a light overview. What healing modalities do you find most effective in working with lunar cycles in the moon?
That is such a beautiful question. Of course, I love anything to do with water because the moon is most associated with the element of water. So I love things like sacred bathing, sacred showers, magical baths and showers, like before spell work or even as spell work. Things like swimming in rivers, in oceans, in ponds, and streams and lakes, and making offerings, like pilgrimaging to a place where there's water, making offerings of water from my own home into hers, ways of releasing and healing myself. I also love doing breath work in time with the moon and timing my breath with hers. And there's some breath work practices in my book because I feel like if we can all learn how to care for our nervous systems as humans, we will make such a better world because we're living in such flight fright, running from one thing or another. Primal fear just seems to be governing us as a species right now. And if we can learn to just slow down and breathe, reset ourselves when we notice that we're kind of going off the rails. And the
Right.
mom can be so helpful for that. Like, you look up at her. She's a still, quiet, serene, beautiful thing just floating in the sky,
Yeah.
and breathing that in, taking in those energies and allowing them to heal us from inside
Yes,
out.
and we all need healing now. Again,
We
scary times,
do.
fear times,
Yes.
no solid ground. So,
Yes.
and how can the Lord help us with grief and transition, trauma that's evident everywhere, even this
Mhm.
self-discovery that,
Yeah.
again, is so needed?
Yeah. The same kind of thing I'm feeling, our beams washing over us, connecting with water, allowing ourselves to actually feel what we're feeling instead of trying to put like a happy face on it or that high vibes only. No, this is not reality. To actually acknowledge how we're feeling, to make space for how we're feeling, to make space for others to feel what they're feeling, and then allowing those emotions to pass through our bodies. I read something recently that even when we're in like the height of like the worst feeling emotion, that it generally passes in 90 seconds if we let ourselves fully feel it and don't trap it in our body. So, allowing ourselves to do that for ourselves and allowing the moon to hold that space for us too, and timing that healing work. Okay, we're in the waning, you know, let it go, cry it out, keen, make sounds, move your body, yeah, moving things. And I think the moon reminds us everything's in constant motion. She never stops. She's always transitioning through the phases in the sign. There's never a stop. There's
Never,
never a
never.
stopping point. Right. Yeah.
I love that. So, what for somebody to again just kind of discover how to do things? Do you have a simple version of what a new moon ritual that you might do or that you suggest?
It's something
Something.
very simple for the new moon, which is the starting point of the lunation, would be to just think about what you would like to accomplish over the lunation as you move towards the full moon, as the moon grows in power, and just write that down. Just write that down and put it on your altar. So that is the simplest thing that one could do at the new moon. I also like sometimes to write it down and bury that paper in the earth and allow that energy to kind of support what it is I'm growing. So thinking of that piece of paper as a seed that you're planting in the earth. And of course, depending on the time of year and where you live, that might not be possible right now. I know that a lot of people are in a very deep freeze right now, but where we live, we could do that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
West Coast. We could
Yeah.
always get to the ground.
Yes.
So what's something again, I love that and I think that is a beautiful ritual. What is something okay, what is a nice like empowering full moon thing to do?
Full moon for me and my work is a time of celebration, of recognizing what has happened since the new moon. So that's about only a 2-week period, right? So when we plant those new moon wishes, know that things aren't always going to manifest in 2 weeks. Know that sometimes it's going to take a lot longer. But to take that time at the full moon and be like, this happened, this happened, this happened, and to celebrate and recognize and honor ourselves for that. And the full moon is a great time to get together with others and celebrate ourselves and celebrate one another, and whenever you can, dance outside under her rays or charge some full moon water that you can use for yourself at another time. So, charging the water, just pouring that into a clear vessel, bringing it outside, or if you need to be inside, that's fine, but holding it up so that the rays of the moon go inside that water and change the vibrations. And then you can even drink that water in. Take that, land that in your body so you know what you've done, so you recognize what you've done. We move on so quickly in this lifetime. It's like, okay, that's done. Move on. What's next? What's next? What's next? Pausing to recognize ourselves for our accomplishments is so important.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm, mm,
Um, so what about again, it's the end of the year right now, if anybody's catching this in the first few days that we drop.
yeah.
Do you have any moon rituals to bring into the new year? Thoughts of ideas or suggestions?
Suggestions. Well, I really like letting go before bringing in. So you'd make use of the ending of the year like you would make use of the end of a lunar cycle by releasing that which no longer serves. So composting those thoughts, ideas, projects, those goals that you're like, I'm really not into accomplishing that goal anymore. And that's another thing where you could write it down. You could burn that piece of paper. You could submerge it in water. You could flush it down the toilet if it's some really intense stuff that you wanna get rid of, but creating first a clean slate where then you can incubate and dream what you wanna call in for the new calendar year. And one of my favorite practices for the new calendar year is to decide upon a word for myself for the year that I'm going to focus on. So this past year, the word has been love. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for 2026, but I'm going to sit down and figure that out. And then I'll write that word down and I'll put it on my lunar altar. So I see that every single day for the entire calendar year.
I
So I'm
think that's
kind of going to do
beautiful. I
that.
think
It's so fun.
I'm going to adopt that. I'm going to come up with a word too that
It's
seems so
super
simple
fun.
and such a
Yeah.
beautiful focus.
Yeah.
Wow. And love, that's a good one. A good one
Yeah.
that could be
We
every
need
year.
more love. Everyone needs love. Everything needs love. And, not even like the love and light stuff I'm talking about, just like love. Like what would love do is the question I've been asking myself in certain situations. Like, what would love do in this situation? And trying to act from that space.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So now a couple times you have mentioned your altar. What would a lunar or a moon altar, what could it look like?
Oh, I love altar building. It is one of my favorite arts. And it can be really, really simple. So my lunar altar is in the main part of my house. It is right where you walk from my living room into like the kitchen area. And right now it has a blue velvet cloth on it. But you could also use a lunar color. So white or silver or gray or black, whatever's calling to you. Sometimes purple is fun for the moon. And then on my lunar altar, I have my little bowl of water for offerings. I also have incense that I sometimes light for her. I have candles. And then I have a candle that I have decorated. It actually is my book cover on it because I was working that magic. So that is still on my lunar altar. And then other things end up on there throughout the year. So there's some selenite, which is a crystal that's sacred to the moon. There's some clear quartz, also sacred to the moon. I have some obsidian, so that is like the dark moon for me, and some black tourmaline is on there. And then random things end up there, like a stone from the beach or a shell that I find. And I do try to reset my lunar altar once per lunation. That doesn't always happen. So I don't want anyone to get down on themselves if they don't reset their lunar altar once a lunation. Sometimes you want that energy to keep building and whatever that work is that you're doing there to keep building before you reset it. I always say you will know when your altar needs to be taken care of and when it needs to be reset. And I do know that that lunar altar needs to be reset right now because that blue cloth it needs to go. Um but it's a your lunar altar is yours. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. There's no law about what needs to be on there or what doesn't need to be on there. And I like to say that our altars are really reflections of what's going on inside of us. So we can see on our altar what's happening in our lives in visual, symbolic form.
I think that's beautiful. A great way to start the year.
Mhm.
So just in case anybody is like intimidated, like this is all new to them, like what moon? So what's something without overwhelm? How could a list somebody's listening today or listening or watching, um, is a daily or weekly just moon connection without getting overwhelmed?
Yeah. Okay. Here's the simplest thing. And this is the first thing that I ask all my students to do every day. Go outside and look for the moon. That's it. Because she's not only visible at night. During some of the phases, she's visible during the day. So you go outside, try to go out around the same time every day. I actually do morning and night as part of my practice, but I'm just asking you once per day around the same time and just look around the sky and notice if you see the moon. And you do that every single day for a year, and then you'll know where to look for her. You'll just know where she is and when she's there. And it's really cool how that happens. It's just very organic way to connect with the moon.
I think that is beautiful.
Mhm.
I love it, because we do that in the morning. I do a outdoor morning workout every day, and we're always checking out where the moon is because 'cause we're up at
Yes.
up lake, a man-made lake, but a lake. But I'm in the city, but I'm lucky that I'm in the hills. But what about how is a nice way to connect, like, for all of our listeners and watchers are in the middle of New York City or Chicago or downtown LA? Is there a way to connect to the moon when you can't really connect to the moon?
I think so because we just need to remember that she's always there. So, a way that you could do it if you're not able to go and look for her is to get a lunar calendar. I like the We Moon, which is created in Oregon on women's land by women. And it's filled with art and poetry, and it's amazing. And you can look every day, and it shows a little picture of what the moon looks like that day. And it tells you what sign or signs she's traveling through. So, there's that. Or if you're a modern witch, like most of you probably are, there are so many cool apps that you can get on your phone. So every day it's just there on your phone and a reminder to look at it. When you do see the moon, greet her. Say hi to the moon, like give her some love. Like don't just look at her, be like, hey, there you are. You're so pretty. Like, thanks so much for shining on me.
Okay, I think that that is
Yeah.
beautiful. So anyway, you guys, there's lots of great things for you to step into this new year with a new awareness, a new practice. So if people let everybody know before we go where they can follow you, what you have going on, social media websites and things, and where they can get this beautiful book.
Well, that book is available anywhere where books are sold. It would be really cool though if you called up your local bookstore and asked them to stock it for you because I love supporting local businesses. And I think it's really important that we do that so that they can stay solvent and serve our communities. But if that's not possible, anywhere books are sold on the internet, it is available. My name is Jesamyn. My website is jesamynangelica.com. I have all of my gatherings on there upcoming, both in person and online. My next gathering that's online, that's open to everyone, is on January 21st. And that is a Tune Into the Moon ritual circle celebrating the book, continuing to celebrate the launch of the book. And we'll be practicing a moon spell under the waxing crescent moon in Pisces. So it will be a water spell, which I'm very excited to share with you all.
Oh,
And then I will yes, please come if you can, because it's just
I would love that.
these online circles are just amazing. I'm surprised at how deep and powerful we can go in a circle online. It's nothing I ever thought would be true, but it is true, and I always come out of those circles just feeling really inspired and filled up. And then I'll be at Convocation outside of Detroit in February, bringing a ritual for the goddess Hathor, the golden one of ancient Egypt, with my priestess sisters, the System Mystica priestesses. And we will be at Spirit Northwest as well in Portland, Oregon in April. And then everything else is pretty much either online or in my home community. We are here in the East Bay of California, right outside of Oakland. So if you're local, I invite you to join us. And I'm on
So you do
Instagram.
have local live events.
Yes, yes, we do. Sisterhoodofthemoon.org is our website for our tradition. We are a matriarchal goddess tradition for all. Many of our rituals are women only, and that's inclusive, all women. And we do have rituals that are open to all genders as well.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your moon magic to the
Mhm.
world. So before we go, I could ask you a million questions. I'm just gonna sit down with your book and stuff. Any of great words, last words you want to give everybody to end the year or to begin the year or to talk about the moon? Some beautiful Jessamyn magic.
Oh, you are just so sweet. Thank you, Patty. Just invite us all to slow down. Just slow down, time ourselves to the moon as much as we can, and remember to breathe, and remember that people throughout all space and time have gone through so much and that we can do this too. We are resilient. We can do this. We are powerful. We are strong. And it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to rest.
Words of wisdom indeed. Thank you so much, Jessamyn. You guys like her, follow her, get her book, follow her, go to her events, and we'll see you next time on the Witching Hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much.